We're on. Good afternoon, Mr. Charlie.
Talk to me or you?
That's you. You're the other.
I don't know if it was some weird self-talk that we'd all just witnessed.
It might be. It might be. I feel like we're all getting to that point of lockdown now where, like, talking to yourself is just the best companies you can get.
Oh yeah.
I've nothing against my wife and daughter, but when it's the only people you see on a day, conversation dries up pretty damn quick.
Yeah.
Some really good conversations with myself, which is, I'm not saying.
Oh mate, we're at the point where if I'm rocking in the corner talking to myself, my missus doesn't even say anything.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he's doing that again, is he? All right.
It's Tuesday. Cool.
Yeah.
It's mainly just after spending half an hour on a podcast with me. You just sit there in a dark room going, fucking hell.
People won't believe this, but this is the point of the week where I talk the most sense. Everything else is fucking gibberish. This is the best you get.
Amazing. I'm up for that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, if is no other reason to join up and start working with Charlie, that's the reason right there. If this is the most sense he makes a week, imagine the conversations you'll get for the rest of the week. There you go. There we go. We are a minute in and I've plugged your services already. There you go.
Thank you.
Before we crack on, actually, because I know you're doing some other bits and pieces as well, let's just spend a minute and talk about your shit. So obviously you're doing your 6-week habit sprint, which looks really cool. Let's talk a little bit about that, and also your competition to win a consultation. Let's have a little chat about that before we get into things.
Yeah, so the habit sprint, we are into the second week. So people have been like sorting out what their goals are, trying to work out why it is they do what they do, why they care about the shit that we talk about. And then they've set themselves some habits, and we've chatted about how do you make those habits better. Because like when you start setting yourself habits, you're normally like, I'm going to eat better. And you've got like no clue of how you're going to do that, what that looks like, when you're going to do it, where you're going to be, all that sort of shit. This week we talk about some ways to make habits easier, because after the first week of like right at the top of the motivation mountain, generally someone comes and pushes you off, like life comes and pushes you off the mountain, and you're like, oh shit, I don't want to do this anymore. So we're talking about some ways to make it as easy as possible to do the habits they've set. And then in the next couple of weeks, we've got some long-term behavior change stuff, some mindset stuff. But yeah, people are loving it. It's going well.
Awesome.
Free consultation on my Instagram page. There's a post that you can tag 3 people in, follow me, usual giveaway bollocks. And you get a free hour with me to talk. It can be sense if you want, it can be nonsense. It doesn't really matter. It can be nutrition related or not, but you get to chat with me for an hour, which is normally about 100 quid, and I'm doing it free. So, not to love.
I mean, if I had an hour to talk Charlie Beeston about anything, I definitely wouldn't talk about nutrition, because I feel like
not even in your top 10.
100%. Yeah. I'd be like, that might pick into like the top 15, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many things about that. Like, why do people that wear tinfoil hats? That's the question. Why are they?
That's a very good question as well. Like, why do I walk around whistling the Candyman from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory to myself every single day without fail? It's a genuine disease. I've got no idea.
See, now you've said that, it's going to be in my head.
It's a good song, but 2 years in, started to lose its novelty a little bit. It's weird. It'll come at a random time.
I mean, I can send you the number for my shrink if you want. She'll probably be able to talk you through that. And
that might be an idea.
Maybe find a different song. I don't know.
I've got loads of questions. Like when I was renting houses, have I mentioned this one?
Go on.
I used to rent houses from people like in spare room and stuff.
Yeah.
And I did this 5 or 6 times, and without fail, every single one who was showing me around the house, and there were other houses that I didn't move into, said, oh, by the way, this isn't a party house. So I want to know who's looking for party houses and where do you find them? Because I wasn't going there going, fucking hope it's a party house. What's a party house look like, and who's hosting them?
I don't know. Answers on a postcard. I
told you I've got a lot of questions. We could be here answering my questions, but we won't do that.
I'm saying I'm up for it. I'm a 33-year-old dad with a novelty T-shirt on, so like I'm definitely not going to a party house. I'm with a neighbour next door going, God, they're loud. Trying to talk to my mate about his latest divorce settlement or some shit like that. I'm that guy. I drink beer out of a jug now. That's kind of where I'm at.
Oh, I love that.
I'm there.
Yeah.
I feel like if I let my beard grow just a little bit longer, like slightly more Mr. Twit than it already is, we're there. I reckon I'm there. going back to the habit thing, I feel like, and this is just my input, and then this has no relevance to anything other than the fact that I think it's a funny fact. Like, how many people, and genuinely answer this, if you're listening to this, answer in the comments. How many of you, when you start a new habit, have to do it on the first Monday of a month? It has to be on the Monday, and it has to be the first Monday in a month. That always baffles me. New Year's resolutions, like New Year starts on a Wednesday, you've got to wait till the Monday just to start resolutions. Yeah, food for thought.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's that this is sciencey. It's best if you start a new habit on any day ending in a Y.
Yeah.
Although
all habits that start on those days don't always work. Ooh. So all habits that fail, when people struggle, like can't do a habit, also start on those days.
Mad.
So there's some conflicting research on that topic, but
there you go. Anyway, we could stay on that for a little while, but yeah, there you go, ladies and gents. This is the quality content you tune in for. Now that's the interesting bit done. Now we're going to try and go into like the educational bits. This is where we lose everybody like 4 minutes in or wherever we are now. Today, I'm basically handing the platform over to Mr. Beestone, not only because of his fantastic lockdown haircut that he's got going on. I say hair, but mainly because he's much better at this topic than I am. We're talking through, I just said I'll hand over to you, and then immediately said we're talking. We're not. He's talking about long-term weight maintenance. So we've said it before on podcasts, so there's no one's really got a weight loss problem. Everyone can lose weight. A lot of people have lost weight, and then it kind of bounces straight back up again. So the issue probably isn't weight loss. It's probably more maintenance. And we've hinted and alluded to that topic quite a lot. So it makes sense to kind of hit a podcast and actually go through that in a little bit more depth. So we're going to talk about weight maintenance. We're going to talk through some sort of weight category specifics for strength athletes. And in our kind of, is this a show? In our pre-show planning meeting, which consisted of about 8 messages backwards and forwards on Instagram, Charlie suggested general human stuff. So that, because humans are quite fascinating, and I think the majority of our audience are humans. Again, if you're not a human, post it in the comments. I'm interested to know what you are. So there you go. So on that, I'm going to swing it over to Mr. Beeston, and let's chat about weight maintenance. Let's do that.
Cool. Yeah, so this is a topic that I've had because a few of my clients have been talking to me about it recently, mostly because they've been phenomenally successful, either with me or like before they got to me. So I've got now more clients than I can count that have lost over 20 kilos. So it's at least 4, if not more. And so we wanted to talk about weight maintenance because it's like you said, it's not something that's spoken about a lot. Like everyone hammers, how do we lose weight? All the millions of different factors and ways to lose weight, but no one actually chats about how do we maintain weight. Most of this is because fit pros don't want you to know the answer. That sounds like one of those old adverts, doesn't it? You know, like the 3 secrets your doctor hates for you to know or something.
Yeah.
Like the weird copywriting shit. But
science
want you to know the answer.
Mother from Slough with the answer of all of these.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But like they make money off the fact that you constantly need or feel like you need to lose weight, and that's why no one ever talks you through it. But also, people will come to work with a coach or a nutritionist to lose weight and then sometimes disregard the bit afterwards where it's really important, where we sort of show you how to keep that. So a few different things going on there. I've anecdotally found that people that stick around a bit longer, even though they've finished trying to lose weight, generally have better maintenance of things later on because they've sort of relearned how to eat normally, if that makes sense. So if we look at long-term weight maintenance, there are a few studies on this, and like the sort of loads of people can't maintain weight, but I think there's something like 5 or 10% of people that lose weight do. So I first of all hate the statistic that all diets fail, or like so many people can't lose weight or whatever, because that's bollocks, and that's cherry picking data which actually isn't representative of what we do know. But the people that lose weight and keep it off seem to have a lot of the same habits from person to person. Like they all share a few similar traits. So I wanted to chat about what those were, and then chat to you, and we can have a bit of a discussion about them, and then we'll go into some specific weight category stuff as well. So the first variable, which isn't really that surprising, is that they carried on exercising. So either they're exercising before, or they found exercise as a way of helping them lose weight. And the people that were successful maintaining weight were still exercising 1 year later. Not a massive surprise, but the interesting thing there for me, I think, is that it wasn't they were doing cardio or they were doing weight training, or they were doing any sort of structured training. There was no mention of what the exercise was. They were doing something. And that's so important, in that if I turned around to you and said, I really love ballet, and you said, brilliant, we're going to do some strongman training, that's probably going to put me off quite soon, because I'm a big ballet fan. And I think it's important that if you try to shoehorn what you want to do into what someone else is telling you to do, it generally doesn't end particularly well. So it doesn't really matter what sort of exercise it is, I don't think, according to the research, and I think we've probably found that ourselves as well, haven't we?
Yeah, 100%. It's people. I'm obviously biased. I'm a strength coach. I coach weightlifters, powerlifters, strongman athletes, that sort of thing. So obviously I'm biased. If you came to me and asked me to coach you for ballet, I probably couldn't help you. I probably could if I put the hours into the research and that kind of thing. I could probably
probably. I love that. I've said to you for one, your ballet room in your gym is too small.
I mean, yeah, because it's called the toilet.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. I reckon I could have a good crack at it, but it would take me a long time.
I don't think there's room for you to plie in that toilet successfully. So,
I mean, who knew on, what are we now, like episode 50? I've lost count. Episode 50. Who knew on some point in this podcast we would talk about me plieing in a toilet? There you go.
I thought it was inevitable.
It's always coming. So,
yeah.
But yeah, so like people come and ask me for things, and there's you know, I'm training a friend of mine who's running a marathon, and it's not really in my remit, but I've got enough sort of friends and contacts and people that I trust that can train marathon runners, that for all of her programming, I'm kind of bouncing off of them to make sure I'm making the right moves. So like that, but it's a really rare. Normally, I wouldn't take a client that was outside of my remit, but she's a friend. I've known her for a very long time, and she asked my help, so it's a thing. But ordinarily, I would just send them up, like, go to that guy. They're a marathon running coach. They're going to do a way better job for you than I can. And I think, like, going back full circle to the original point, if people try and shoehorn stuff into things, then it's inevitably going to end in disaster. Because like the marathon runner, if they come and train with me and do loads of strength training, and the ballerina that comes from me and does a load of strongman training, they're going to end up fucking massive. Like, I'm 140 kilos. I can't stand on like point shoes. That would be horrendous. I'm not saying that all strongman athletes need to be 140 kilos, by the way. That's
or that they can't wear ballet shoes. They can if they want.
I've seen some questionable shoes at strongman comps.
Yeah.
Questionable. But yeah, so the whole thing that, you know, I think people sort of hit their niche, and that's awesome. But if you're the client in this case, like, find someone that works on your shit. Like, find a ballerina coach.
Balletist.
Yes, find a balletist. That,
yeah.
I can't help you, but yeah, that. I think that was a long way of getting around to the fact of saying, yeah, like, find something that suits your needs.
Yeah. But if I'm working with someone and like we have that first conversation about what they do and what their life looks like, and we'll get on to like training and exercise, and they'll say, oh, you'll hate me for this, but I do. And then it'll be something like, oh, I do boot camps, or I do like classes or Zumba or whatever. I'm like, oh, why would I hate that? I mean, I wouldn't hate it if they said I do sweet fuck all and I just put my feet up. I'd be like, oh, okay, fair enough. That's you. At least you're honest. But yeah, whatever exercise you find works best for you is best for you. And that'll probably change over time as well.
100%.
Like as a kid, mine was team sports, and then it was more gym-based. At the moment, it's walking around my flat, which is about as much exercise I would currently get. I occasionally go for a run if I can not help it, I know. But yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, exercise is important. And it's important that I forgot to mention this at the start. When we look at successful long-term weight maintenance, we're looking at people that have lost 10% of their body weight and then maintained it for at least a year. Because this is like overweight and obese individuals research, they look at the percentage of body weight lost as like an important metric. I don't think that bit's that important. I think it's the being able to sustain it for at least a year. Because I think if you sustain it for a year, chance of you getting to 2 years and 5 years is higher as well. So that first year is actually really important. So exercise was number one. The second one was an interesting one in that they all reported eating a low-calorie, low-fat diet. I don't think the fat content of the diet is particularly important, other than I think what they would have found is that they reported eating similar to when they were dieting. So they would have lost the weight by going lower fat, and then they've just kept that, maintaining the weight. I don't think it's low fat is the answer for losing weight, because it isn't. But what's important is that you don't eat a certain way to lose weight and then go back to pies and chips for breakfast and wonder why it's not really adding up for you, which isn't uncommon. As stupid, I mean, pies and chips for breakfast is sadly uncommon, but that example isn't uncommon.
So, I feel like pies and chips for breakfast is a massively overlooked thing. Like, for me, I know typically, like by and large, recently I've changed it a little bit, but by and large, my breakfast is my highest calorie meal because it's the time of the day I've got most time. Because like before I go out to work in the morning, I have like some enormous bowl of porridge, probably a lump of peanut butter in there somewhere, a shakes, and like this and the other. And at some point, some time ago, I was smashing down 1,000 calories at breakfast. And then the rest of those kind of petered through. And I feel like I could have definitely cut down the amount of time I was sat eating if I just had pie and chips for breakfast. Top tip.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, the only thing to consider with that is gravy.
Yeah,
I'm not sure gravy's got a place at breakfast, but I'm open to trying things. That's what's called professional curiosity.
What if the pie has gravy in it, like a steak and mushroom pie or something like that, and it's got the gravy in the pastry?
See, that's interesting as well, isn't it? Is that still gravy, or?
I think it is. Or is that sauce? What's the difference between gravy and sauce? I don't know.
That's a good question.
Genuinely stumped. I think it's the same thing. Or like, surely everything is a sauce, like gravy or jam could be a sauce. It's just sauce for your toast, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
There you go. There you go. I said just before we hit record that we were going to go off some weird tangents. Here's another.
That's one of the weirdest ones.
What's the difference between gravy and sauce? Answers on a postcard. Let us know. I'd love that if people are actually writing these on postcards and no one's actually giving them my address. So like there's just these random postcards of answers all over the place. Bore them out.
What is the difference? Viscosity, essentially. Gravy's much thinner than a sauce generally, but then that's not true of all sauces.
No, I really don't know.
No.
I might Google this while we're chatting. Bear with. I've got my phone.
No, that's fine, mate. It's important research.
Hold on. Gravy versus sauce. Right. Okay, this is straight off Google. Oh, right. Okay, gravy is usually considered a type of sauce. Ah, that's right.
Oh.
A type.
Well, in which case, pies for breakfast.
100%. There you go. So the full gravy is usually considered a type of sauce. It's often made from meat juices combined with broth or milk. Who the fuck puts milk in their gravy? Oh, see, that's wrong. Thickened with a starch. A sauce, on the other hand, isn't necessarily meat-based. Instead, it's just a byproduct of roasting meat sauces and carefully mixed combinations of multiple ingredients.
True, but then gravy is not always meat-based, is it?
No.
You can have a veggie roast.
Yeah. I don't think that answered my question, Google. That was terrible.
Also, if they are milk-based, milk is a breakfast choice as well. So again, gravy can be consumed as part of a healthy breakfast.
Yeah, you can put cornflakes.
Yeah. But back to the original point, which I'm trying to rapidly trying to remember what it was.
Low cal versus low fat diet.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, food. I think generally, and I think personally, one misconception about dieting is your way of losing weight has to be the same as how you're planning to maintain it, which is a really common thing that people say, but it's actually not the case. You can lose weight in any of the ways that we've spoken about before, but if you then don't learn how to maintain it in a different way, then that's when you're screwed. And that's what most people do, in that they will do a detox or whatever, and they've got no one there to show them how to eat normally. And they've got no clue how to do that. So they end up just eating what they were before and putting the weight back. I've used in the past methods and strategies and stuff with a client to help them lose weight and then help them maintain weight afterwards in a very different way to what they were doing before. When we spoke about before about having quite an aggressive diet, for some people that really works. Sometimes you can't do that and show them how to maintain behaviors at the same time.
Yeah.
So you'll do that one way and then show them how to maintain things in a very different way. I think that's much more difficult to do, and you probably need someone to help you with that. But yeah, you don't have to lose weight in the same way that you are planning to maintain your new weight, but it generally can help for a lot of people. So that's where the diet thing comes from, I think, in that if you learn how to eat low-calorie food or lower calorie to help you lose weight that you enjoy and fits with your lifestyle, when it comes to maintaining, you're just adjusting the intake a little bit, just in some of the food, probably giving yourself a few more food you can have more often, and you pretty much eating the same, and that's what generally works for people. What else was there? There is a really interesting one, which not many people are going to think about, but the people that were successful with long-term weight maintenance reported that they weighed themselves more often. They were weighing themselves pretty much every single day, which they were doing when they were dieting, but then they continued to do when they maintained weight. So that's not to say none of these things mean that this is what's caused them to keep the weight off. They just all seem to be correlated with people that did it well. So rather than saying you need to always track your weight in order to maintain a new weight, we could sort of look at, well, okay, well, why would that explain the fact that they've maintained weight? There are a few different things that could potentially explain that, in that does keeping an eye on your weight help you regulate your food over time? Rather than if you don't know, because you could probably see a change in weight even when you account for water quicker than you can see a change in body composition for a lot of people. Particularly if you've been like bigger and got a bit smaller, but you're still like relatively big. I think you'd see it on the scales before you saw it on your body potentially. So that might, if you saw the scales go up, even though you didn't see a change in yourself, you might think, okay, I've been like overeating, under moving. I'm going to adjust that a little bit. Whereas if you wait to see a change in your body, it's sort of shutting the gate after the horse has bolted and it's a little bit late and you've started putting weight on then. So that might explain why. It might have nothing to do with it at all. It might just be that something that people have continued to do. But that's quite an interesting finding.
Interesting. I feel like that comes into, going back right to the top of the call, is that kind of goes into the whole habit forming thing of if you've been on a weight cut or you're trying to shift a bit of timber for a period of time. Like, I feel like jumping on the scales, if you do it religiously at a certain point, that just kind of becomes a thing you do. So maybe if you were in that thing and you were doing it every day or every other day, or jumping on the scales quite regularly, like you say, that's probably just part of a habit that you formed, which is part of the kind of get out, I guess. So I don't know. And again, this is something you could, I don't know, you'll definitely have your own take on this, but with clients and athletes that I've trained in the past, if they're looking to cut down to a weight class, or if they're just, as a personal trainer, just looking to lose a bit of weight and get some disco muscles and that sort of stuff, I tend not to say weigh every day unless they're in that kind of, unless that works for them. Purely anecdotally, I've got no basis behind that other than the fact that I don't necessarily think it's a thing, but it's interesting speaking to different people about it. So I've had clients in the past who have done that and weighed themselves once a week, and they've kind of seen it fluctuate and they've done the bits and pieces, which is not too dissimilar to myself. So I weigh myself once a week and it's generally along a line. You get people that are every day, and then there's then, getting to my point, there's then the point where you weigh yourself every day, and at what point does that become, for want of a better word, unhealthy, where you start then just looking at that number and understanding that if you woke up in the morning and haven't been for a pee yet, or you had something different for dinner the night before, something like that, and your scales are up, and you see those little peaks, because they happen, like, at what point does that become quite damaging?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's what the big issue with people weighing themselves is. So, like, weighing yourself frequently is seen as an unhealthy behaviour.
Yeah.
When it absolutely isn't really. Most of the time when people say that, it's that person has an issue with how they see the scales and they're projecting it onto, this is what everyone feels, where it's not normally the case. I've had clients where they've weighed themselves every single day for months and years on end and would not bat an eye. And I've done it myself and it does not affect me. So there are some clients that I have that don't weigh themselves because they sort of have two choices. They can either try and do the work so they get to the place where they're not bothered by the scales, or they can just say, well, I'm not going to bother with the scales. And there's an argument for both, really, in that I think if you're working with a coach, it's quite nice to get over that mental barrier of, oh my God, the scales are bad and they're telling me I'm fat, because they're not.
Yeah.
But some people don't have an interest in doing that or the capacity mentally to do that, so they just decide to ditch the scales, and that's cool as well. So in terms of, is it unhealthy for some people, yes, because of their attitude towards it. Does it suddenly become unhealthy for some people? Yes. Is it inevitable? I don't think so. I don't think if you weigh yourself every day. So how I work with clients, if they're going to weigh, sometimes I'll say every day, and if they say, yeah, cool, no worries, then we do. I generally try and avoid once a week, because people, like you said with the fluctuations, if they've had a really good week and then they eat higher carb, higher sodium the night before, and the weight goes up, that's really disconcerting for someone who's trying to get that number to go down, or at least in their head they are. So I sometimes, for those that don't want to weigh every day, will say, can you weigh yourself for 3 days in a row once a week? So like do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we just take that average, and that accounts for some of the variability, but without that obsessive having to get up and weigh yourself on the weekend sort of thing. So that's how I tend to do it. There's an argument for all sorts, and that's where like the nuance of coaching comes in, and why I hate like scales are everything and you must always weigh yourself that we get at women's slurred. Yeah. But also why I hate the, oh my God, the scales are awful, they're actually making everyone psychotic, because that's bullshit as well.
Yeah, they're two very extreme ends of the same spectrum.
Exactly. Weirdly, it depends, believe it or not.
Drink.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like we haven't had a real it depends for a while.
No, I think we just answered everything.
Pretty much, yeah.
Completed nutrition and training, so.
Yeah, I mean, we've completed it to the point we're talking about having gravy for breakfast because people mix milk with it.
Yeah, that's true. That's one that shouldn't really divide people.
Who's doing that?
Should be united against that.
Gravy is worse than pineapple on pizza for some people. Personally, controversially, I've got no issue with pineapple on pizza.
I find with a lot of things that people say, oh, you should absolutely love this or absolutely hate it, I do sit generally in the middle.
Yeah.
And just don't have like Marmite. I just don't mind it. I quite like it's all right.
Yeah, it's great on a crumpet.
Yeah, wouldn't say I love it, but don't hate it. It's got its place.
I've got some in my cupboard at home. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. I have here as well. And I just have an issue with people saying I have to love it or I have to hate it. And it's the same with anything.
Well, that's just marketing.
Oh, I know. But people take that and use it with everything. I'm just ambivalent towards most things. I don't have the energy for either end of the spectrum.
I feel like that's answered my question from a long, long time ago. Like, people are always under or overwhelmed, and no one is just in the middle.
We are consistently whelmed.
We're just whelmed. Perfect amount of whelmed. That's done. Just the perfect amount of whelm. That.
Yeah.
There you go. I feel what your feeling is towards Marmite. It whelms me. That's the thing.
I consider this podcast so far whelming.
Nothing's properly set me on edge, but nothing's really pissed me off. Like,
no, exactly, yeah.
Bang in the middle there. Yeah, cool.
It's how things should be.
Yeah, exactly.
Too much excitement's not good for us.
There was a friend of mine ages ago who used to just operate on the premise that you just operate consistently at about 70%. Yeah. Like you're then like you're just above that kind of like middle ground bit whelmed. You're becoming overwhelmed, but you're not there yet. Like anything more than that, you've got nowhere to go. But anything less, you're a miserable bastard. So we just operate consistently about 70%. Well, that was quite. That was a thing. What
would that be though? Because he's obviously not whelmed, but he's not overwhelmed. Would suggest you've gone beyond what that limit. You've got pro-whelmed or something.
Somewhat whelmed.
Yeah, but what would? Because if you're whelmed, you're just in the middle.
Above average whelmed.
See, it needs to be more concise than that.
It does. What's a unit of measurement for like? I feel like AF is an underused unit of measurement. Whelmed as fuck.
Like that's right at the top, though, isn't it?
That's overwhelmed. That's there.
That's full whelmed.
Here's a new term I've learned being a dad is overtired. I never knew that was a thing. There you go. I feel like
see that's one which surely everyone feels overtired if they're tired because you're more tired than you would like to be.
But you're never over dehydrated if you're thirsty.
No, that's true. Well, you are. You'd be dead.
True. Yeah.
That's over dehydrated.
Over dehydrated. That's all it was.
Interestingly, to be pedantic, dehydration is actually the process and not the state that you're in. So technically, you are hypohydrated when you are what people say is dehydrated. But dehydration is the process of you losing the fluid and not replacing it. So in the same way you like hyperglycemic or hypoglycemic, you're technically hypohydrated.
There you go.
And you can be hyperhydrated as well, which is when you drink too much water, which actually leads to hyponatremia, which is a lack of solute in the blood, which is common in weight cuts. If people try to water load and do it badly,
I was just about to say exactly that.
Yeah, get hyponatremia. People die of it. It's common, not common, happens every week. It's happened before in the armed forces when they go on long marches and stuff and long training exercises, in that because the symptoms are quite similar, you get like dizzy, confused, fatigued. They're very similar. It's a bit of a paradox in that symptoms for drinking too much are the same as drinking too little, so you drink more. Yeah. And yeah, eventually people just end up dying because there's not enough sodium and things.
I think that happens quite a lot in MMA as well. People try and do like really extreme cuts into a weight class for fights. The same thing that happened there. That's how I first heard about that. Was through MMA. Again, quite interesting. Look at us making interesting content.
And it's weight cut relevant as well.
It's weight cut relevant. I mean, I feel like that's as far as we can go. Like it's taken us half an hour, but we put something relevant out there.
Yeah.
Like we've smashed it. To be fair, that's good.
There is no doubt that there's no one left listening this far in. If they were,
if you're listening this far, what should we do? I feel like we need like a code word. If you're listening this far, just type badger into the comments.
You should just give him a tenner or something. Like,
if you're listening this far, there is a cash prize. You've done well.
Yeah.
Done really well. All the money I make from this podcast, you can have.
Yeah, fair.
Which is
you can't say fairer than that.
You can't. Oh, we should get Shropshire gravy boats in on the breakfast gravy.
You knew this was coming.
There we go. Oh, Shropshire gravy boats just come and sponsor us already.
Yeah.
We're there. I don't even know if they're a real company, but I want
to. I'd imagine probably not.
Breakfast gravy boats. It's got to be a thing. I'm going to go to Shropshire, set up a company and to sell gravy boats. That's what I'm doing. I think
nothing stopping you.
I think Shropshire's quite close to Berkshire, darling. That's where I live. No, it's what's the thing there? It's like we're Berkshire, and I feel the need to say darling with an extra H at the end of the D, like darling, because Berkshire. What's the thing in Shropshire? Gravy.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's got to be a thing. I don't know. We've gone well off the spectrum of helpful, and now we're just talking utter gibberish, which is great.
Yes, that's true. So, weight maintenance.
Yes.
There were two more things which people did consistently. One of them was eating breakfast regularly, which again, I don't think is like the be all and end all for losing weight. If you don't eat breakfast, I don't think you should. If you do, then I think you should. Yeah. But what again is probably the fact that whatever they were doing before that worked for them for weight loss have just kept their behaviours. So it's just showing that they're maintaining the same things they were doing before that were healthy for them, and they've continued them, which have continued to be healthy for them. And the last thing was consistent eating pattern across weekdays and weekends. So rather than eating like nothing and then eating like 9,000 calories in the evening and then eating loads breakfast and nothing at lunch and just being really sporadic around different things. They were just consistent and just did the same thing day in, day out, which weirdly is always basically what people say when they're talking about success in anything.
Yeah.
They just did the right thing consistently every day.
Yep.
Mad.
So that last point's a really interesting one. It's a conversation I've had more times than I care to count. Is that people they kind of do the Monday, Friday thing, where let's say you prescribe 3,000 calories a day, and that's going to be your amount to lose a little bit of timber. And you go, cool. So what you do is Monday to Friday, you eat 2,900 calories a day, and that gives you a 500 calorie deficit at the end of your week, which your week ends on Friday. And then you go out with the boys on Saturday night and you smash down 500 calories in beer, as well as everything else you've consumed, you'll then square back to zero. So it's a really interesting point. It's kind of keeping that consistency thing moving along. The analogy I use to people is use your calories like a savings bank. So if you're trying to lose weight and you are tracking, and that's how you're doing things, use it like a savings account. So if you know you've got a birthday or a night out or bits and pieces coming up, you could just can a couple of calories off for the next few weeks. So you know you've got them in reserve, but understand that when you get to that point, you're consuming that lot again. So if you're looking at, you won't see this on the podcast, but I've got my fingers up. But if you're going on a curve that starts here and ends here, by the end of that thing, when you get to that weekend, you're going to be down here somewhere because you've lost all the extra calories. But then you're probably going to peak back to there again once you've had that night out, because you know you've got those extra calories on. So if you kind of treat it like that, you're still going to be on a downward trajectory, but understand there'll be like a little kind of peak before another cliff. And the same works retrospectively, I think. I know if you have an unplanned night out, I don't know what the word I was looking for there, impromptu, let's go impromptu, and you go out and smash several hundred or several thousand calories with your mates on a night out, the same works the other way around. You just continue on your path and you just cut a couple of extra calories out over the next few weeks, and then you'll kind of carry on back the way you were. So I think it's important to know that it's never A to B in a dead straight line. You're allowed a fluctuation, but it's just understanding how that works. So I think the savings account analogy is one I use quite a bit with people because it works and it's easy to explain. But I think that's really important to note.
Yeah, I think a couple of things with that is that people do that from day to day as well. And I've seen it a lot recently. It pisses me off in that they'll eat nothing because they're not breakfast eaters. And then they'll have a tiny lunch and basically just trying to snack throughout the day to not be hungry. End up eating the same amount of calories and then being starving at dinner and eating everything inside. Yeah. And then end up eating more calories. Like if you're just giving yourself more food at the start of the day rather than trying to diet for most of the day and then cling on to not being starving later in the evening, you'd be fine. And the other thing that I like with the savings analogy that I've used before, in that you've got a salary and you're trying to save money to go on holiday, you're not going on a huge holiday, you've just got a relatively small goal in terms of holiday, like you want to go away for a week in the UK maybe. Like all the things that you do, or people would suggest to you to save money for that, you'd be like, oh, I'm going to collect my £2, or I'm going to use something like Money Box that just collects my change from spends and stuff and it just saves it all up in one place. That's like a rational way of saving money. No one's going to suggest that you get like another 40-hour job on top of your 40-hour job. And it's exactly the same with food. Like if you just want something that's a relatively moderate goal, like you're not trying to get on stage in your underwear, why are you trying to adapt things that are only relevant for people that are trying to do that extreme? Like you're not trying to save thousands of pounds, you're trying to save a couple of quid a week. So just do something that'll do that rather than something like getting another fucking job for 40 grand. Same with food. Like rather than trying to give yourself 500 calories a day, why don't you just give yourself a little bit less than you normally would a day?
Yeah. That. So on my way, and this harks back to a little bit we talked about earlier on about like the kind of low fat, low carb thing. Like that's definitely not the answer. So like that's not the thing. If you like that sort of shit, then crack on. But one of the things I go to is I've got a particular penchant for cottage cheese. I do quite like.
Oh, not cottage cheese again. Every time.
I do like the cottage cheese. But I opt for the fat-free stuff because to me it tastes the fucking same as the full fat stuff, but it's literally 80% less than like the calorie versions. It's so much less. But you can eat a whole fucking tub of cottage cheese with your pineapple in it if you're so way inclined, and it's like 200 calories for like the fat-free shit. Whereas like the full fat stuff's like 1,000 calories. I don't know what it is. I haven't bought it in a long time. But so like, there's little go-tos and swap outs. So if like I get quite snacky, so for me I'll try and find low calorie snacks that are still satiating. So I feel like that. And like you say, if you're going to go nibble through the day and then you just go all in for dinner in the evening and then snacks and everything else, you're just kind of beating yourself up. So,
yeah. And then on the flip side of what you've said, if you prefer the full version, have that. Like if that's the thing that's going to, like the amount of people are like, oh, I've cut out the mayo and replaced it with a shitty dressing I hate. I'm having black coffee now, even though I like a latte and I hate black coffee. Black tea. I'm not even saying the word sugar anymore. And like, how's all this feeling? Oh, it's fucking miserable. Oh, why the fuck are you doing it then? Like, if that's the one thing, if the bar of dairy milk is the thing that keeps everything else together, if it's the glue in your diet, why are you not having that 120 calorie bar of dairy milk? Try and save this lifestyle that you fucking hate. It's the strangest concept. And when you say it to people like that, they're like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I've had a new client recently. She was like, "Yeah, I have a bag of crisps every day, but I know I need to cut that out." Why?
Yeah,
like, it's not a potato famine, and you're not getting like huge because you're eating a packet of crisps a day. So
it's people are funny, man. And like I feel like there's definitely like there's definitely a factor of kind of what we see and like the whole social media thing, all the rest of it. There's definitely that feeding into this whole argument. But people kind of see a thing, and you have to make it extreme or it won't work, and that's bullshit. And that's a real bugbear of mine. It's just a thought process to get in the bin. Like, that's not how this works at all.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what annoys me is that people talk about weight loss as if it's just calories in, calories out, and that's the only thing. And that's obviously the only thing in terms of physical weight loss. But there are more than one thing that affect your calories in. Like, it's not just the food you choose. The amount of things that affect food is ridiculous. Yeah. So every time I see like a stupid grinning baboon of a PT who's literally just done like a 2-week nutrition diploma and gone, oh, it's easy, it's just calories in versus calories out. Cool. And I'll go, well, obviously it is, but have you not thought there might be a little bit more to it than that, like the different factors that affect what people put in and what they get out?
Nah, they got their qualification on Groupon, so it's legit as fuck.
Well, that's true, yeah.
Yeah, that. I mean, that's a whole nother podcast. We could just go on. Sgt Angry Go would make an appearance in that podcast, I feel.
Yeah.
Like, he would definitely make an appearance. That's a whole other podcast anyway. I might just jump on that anyway at some point about just things that PTs do that really fucking annoy me. Like,
yeah,
there's so many. I qualified as a PT in 2007. I look back at things that I did in 2007 and they annoy me because I did them and I took people's money for it. But now we're in 2021 and I feel like I've learned a bit and I'm quite happy taking money off people. But I'll go again in like 2030 and look at things I prescribe people now and go, oh, fucking hell. But I think that's called learning. I think
that's brilliant. That's exactly what you should do.
That's called learning. But then there's PTs that I qualified with in 2007 that are still doing the same shit that they did in 2007. And that angers me because you're taking people's money. And they're just doing that whole, but I've been in the business for, I don't know how many years that is, therefore I'm really good at what I do. Like, I've probably had a pair of boxers at the back of my drawer since 2007. I probably wouldn't wear them now. They've been cleaned before they were put in the drawer, but like,
that's healthy.
They're probably just ones that are never going to get worn again. You know, everyone's got that shirt in their cupboard that's now the same shape as the coat hanger with like dust on the shoulders. Like, just because it's been there a long time, don't mean it's good.
No.
Same with coaches.
Yes.
I will leave it with that nugget. I think that's the most wise nugget I've had on this whole episode. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, weight cutting. In terms of weight category, looking at the broader term of like weight management, it's just about being clever with when you do things and when you don't. So like, if you're somebody who doesn't like tracking but has to track to make weight, don't try and make yourself track all year round and hate it and fall in and out of love with it. Just leave it for 10 months.
Yeah.
Like, in the same way that you wouldn't have an issue at all periodizing your training, people really struggle with periodizing any dietary approach, any sort of strategy, any techniques they use, anything. They don't periodize any of it. They don't even periodize their body weight, which is madness. If you're a weight category athlete, you should be periodizing when you are heavier, when you are lighter, and you should know 12 weeks out I need to be here, 8 weeks out I need to be here. And then particularly like a sport like weightlifting, where you don't suddenly get a competition thrown at you like you would in combat sports. Like, boxers can be like, oh, by the way, you're fighting at this weight on Friday, and if you don't, you won't feed your kids. And then you're like, fair enough, you sort of have to check your weight. Weightlifters, you're just sat there going, oh, that pump looks cool, I'm going to do that. So like, just plan your year around when you probably know most competitions are going to be. And even if you don't know, you'll probably get 16 weeks notice.
Yeah, oh, gotcha. I feel like there's not many people that sign up to a competition on a whim that's this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, by the way, we're going to do it in July, but it's tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm saying that. I have done that. Like, I was driving, this is some time ago, I was driving somewhere to visit someone, I forget, it was a long, long time ago. And I just happened to glance and there was a competition on the same weekend I was there. I went, fuck it, I'll see if they've got any spaces. They had a space, I competed, I came dead last in this competition. I was fucking abysmal. But that's another story entirely. So yeah, my suggestion is probably don't do that. Maybe prep better. That. Anyway, I feel like that's kind of that's brought us to a nice kind of close to actually what was quite an educational podcast, I feel.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm disgusted in this because we've actually done some good information on the last couple of episodes of this.
Yeah, awful.
Not a fan. I feel like I'm keeping it somewhere on a level by coming out with odd shit, like there's milk and gravy.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I'm keeping us down there. Like, you're trying desperately to bring us up, which is great. I see what you're trying to do. I will keep it. But anyways, on that, so here's the bit where we're going to talk about ourselves for a minute. So if you've no interest in buying our shit, then don't. You can tune off now and go listen to someone else that might make a lot more sense. If you're interested in what we can do and what we can help you with, then we're going to talk about that for a couple of minutes. So we spoke at the head of the call about Charlie's Habit Sprint and the free consultation giveaway that he's doing. So head over to @CBNutrition_ on Instagram. You can punch yourself in there. Tag 3 of your mates, follow Charlie, do all that kind of stuff. I've said this week in, week out, sign up to his emails. They are actually quite interesting. And there's some relevant stuff in there. And you usually get like a fun anecdote about the wonderful world of Charlie Beeston.
It's a strange world. It's
a bizarre world, but it's one that I genuinely look forward to those emails.
Thanks, mate.
They come out as well. Like, today, I didn't disappoint. I was a big fan. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you what today's one was. If people sign up today, do they get to know what today's one was? Or do they miss today's one? They just have to wait.
If someone signs up today and they let me know that they've signed up today, I can send them today's one.
Do that. There you go. Do that. That puts pressure on me because now I have to get this podcast up and out for today, which is Tuesday, the 16th of March. So if I get this up on Wednesday, the 17th, I apologise, but I will do my best to get this up today. And of course, everyone's going to listen to it today. There you go. But yeah, so get in touch with Charlie. That fucking hell. Get in touch with Charlie for all your nutrition needs and habit forming and all that kind of good stuff, which I think is going to be very important, especially coming out of lockdown. Which leads me nicely into the segue of when gyms open, which is my bit. So when gyms open, now I'm going to caveat the start of this like the government did by saying at the earliest, which basically means if everyone isn't a dickhead and the data looks nice, then they'll open gyms on the 12th of April. So I'm bracing myself for that to be put back a little bit because I think a lot of people are dickheads. But if we open on the 12th of April, before that, the 29th of March, 29th of March, we're allowed to do group outdoor sport, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, I don't have an outdoor area at the gym, so that kind of rules me out a little bit. But we can have like group people set up and doing stuff outside. So we can come back to the gym onto private land. And we can do some stuff outside here. But from the 12th of April, the gym will be open for open gym only because we're not allowed to do classes, except kids' classes. Kids can come and do stuff because kids don't carry COVID, famously. But we're allowed to go open gym, so there'll be bookable slots on the system for that. Come down and train. There's obviously limited capacity in classes. And then from the 17th of May, we're back to business as usual. Normal timetables running. And then from June, obviously, all business as usual. One thing we have implemented is people have been asking about our programming, and people want to sort of follow our programming and such, which is awesome. So what we've done, or what we're in the process of doing, is implementing like an associate membership. It'll cost you £20 a month. You'll get all of our programming sent directly to you. You'll get discount on drop-in sessions to the gym. You'll get invited to all of our sort of in-house competitions and socials and all that kind of stuff. So if that's something you're interested in, you get programming for Olympic lifting, for powerlifting, for strongman training. Each one is a minimum of 3 sessions a week. And that can all be yours for the bargain price of £20 a month with extra kind of discount benefits and stuff as well. So if that's the thing you're interested in, drop me a message. We'll get you set up on that. And then get to training. That's it. Anything else you wanted to add? Or?
So at the moment, I'm doing a lot of corporate wellness stuff. So if you are a business owner, an HR director, or you know anyone that is and would like that sort of thing, please give me a shout. Just showing people how to work better, be healthier, and perform better at work. And people that invest in this make more money in their business. So if you'd like to make some more money, drop me a message.
Awesome. There you go. I like that. If you want to earn more money, people go like, nah, I'm all right, actually.
No, I'm all right, thanks. Yeah.
Quite like my furlough. Nah.
Yeah.
Anyway, cool. On that, I will love you and leave you. I'm going to cut the recording off now, and I will see you all next time. Cheers, dude.
Cheers, mate.